Here's some botched up extra bits. Fries on the side.
There we go. We open the show with Vince in his most growly alpha voice possible, listing off all the participants that are going to be in the Royal Rumble match tonight. And there are some absolute legends in this. Everyone from the late 80s, 90s is in this match, really, for WWF.
There's some even some dream moments in the actual match itself. I really miss Vince McMahon doing his own voiceovers.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was cool.
I didn't think it'd list all 30.
Yeah, it went on for a minute.
Like, these days, they'd try to hide the Boogeyman or Santino Marella surprise entries. They wouldn't.
No, Vince was trying to get the jobbers over just as much.
Yeah, the Red Rooster.
And then we get into ringside, and Tony Schiavone is on commentary. That woke me up. I got well excited for this.
I actually had no idea he ever worked for the WWF. I thought he was like a Sting, like he'd never ever been to the dark side before, which is why I assumed he worked MLW, AEW, WCW, just refused to go to the big evil Titan Towers.
It was a crazy weekend of wrestling for me because, like you said, we're going to do Clash next, and JR is calling that show. And I was like, this is totally backwards. Where are we?
Yeah, what's going on
happening
here?
in 1990?
Some great hosts as well. Like you had Jim Cornette in the WCW show. Here you had Jesse Ventura wearing Mickey Mouse ears and a polo Mickey sweater.
Oh, going on and on about the fact that he'd just come from Space Mountain and he'd just gone to Disneyland.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a great moment where he asks if Brutus the Barber Beefcake cuts his own hair because it looks terrible. This guy is literally got no hair with a rat's tail in the back.
And he rips into Schiavone like the entire night, which I guess is the whole point of the heel color guy.
So apparently Ventura was the first person to come up with the heel commentator. That's why he made so much money and how Vince just allowed him to do whatever he wanted. It wasn't really thought of before.
See, I would have acclaimed that to Bobby Heenan.
You'd think, but Heenan didn't commentate for another couple of years.
So let's get into this opening match of the night. And the crowd were hot. They were crazy going into this first match. And by the time that this match ended, there was crickets. Not a great opening contest to kick off a hot crowd.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't believe how over the Bushwhackers were. People were going mental when they stomped their legs a little bit. And as you said, the crowd was so hot. They milked the crowd for like 5 minutes. Do you even blame them? Raymond Rougeau and the other Rougeau, they look like actual decent workers. I didn't check anything out with them, but they look like easily they can work. This looked like a walk in the park for them. To the point where I think the bearded Rougeau looked seriously hungover. Because he was probably like, oh, I'm working the Bushwhackers.
He doesn't need to be 100%, it's fine.
Yeah, it's clear that they were talented. So a very easy day at work for them. A lot of biting.
Wow, the Bushwhackers, not just the biting, a lot of licking. And so the Bushwhackers end up winning the match. Did you notice on their way out, they licked children's foreheads?
Yeah, that was their gimmick, man, and people loved it. They ate it up.
Even in the 90s, that's got to be weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, not as weird as Norman the Lunatic, but that's a different show for a different time.
I suppose this is 30 years ago.
There's some weird stuff in 1990.
It's just weird how the Bushwhackers are even a thing. Never mind being over.
This is what I think of, along with several other matches on this card. This is what I think of when I think of 1990 WWF wrestling. It's all posturing, it's all pantomime, it's all parading around the ring and poses, and the crowd loves it because this is aimed squarely at 6 to 7 year olds who just wants to see larger than life characters, which is
just wants to be licked by a bushwhacker.
Yeah, which is step one as to why I think if we were in this period of time, we would definitely be watching other products.
We'd definitely be on WCW, and
that made me think. So apart from for you, I would say from the dawn of the Attitude Era to 2006, 2007. For me, from 2001 to 2006, 2007. Give or take those periods in which we were kind of WWE hardcore, pretty much the entirety of the rest of our lives we have spent on varying sides of indie promotions or smaller promotions. We're just not WWE people.
We've always been in favour of the second company, whatever the second company has been.
Yeah, but I mean, it only just dawned on me that the amount of WWE television that we've consumed over the years,
Yeah.
despite the fact that we've always sought out other promotions. I thought the Genius was great. I've never seen the Genius wrestle. I know it's Randy Savage's brother, Lanny Poffo. I just always assumed he was a manager, and apparently this is one of his few matches, and I have no idea why. He was incredibly charismatic. His kicks and his punches looked great. His offense was really, really tight. I didn't really get why this guy wasn't used as a permanent wrestler, really.
He actually even controls pretty much 90% of the match, and then Brutus
Yeah.
Beefcakes just gets a reversal here and there, and the crowd goes crazy for the reversal.
Brutus's finisher is a sleeper hold, and the crowd still pops mental over it.
Yeah. So I think the Genius plays a perfect heel here, and I was listening to... I get confused because I basically listen to JR and Shivani's podcast at the same time. And right now, with them being commentators on the wrong shows, I'm confused who said what. But anyway, one of them said that the Genius was really popular backstage. And they were really, at this point, trying to push and make him big. So like you said, it's weird that we don't see much of him.
It's a bit of a shame, really, because apparently they picked him up, WCW picked him up and put him under contract, probably because of Savage. And he said in an interview, he literally got paid 4 to 5 years and never got called up for TV. He sat on his paycheck for half a decade and never appeared on TV, never did anything, which is just, it sums up WCW in that era and Eric Bischoff, really. Like, they literally forgot he was on the books.
Well, they did that with a lot of guys, didn't they? WCW.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just kind of a sad career, really, because this guy had so much talent. He was like more than able to do all sorts of different things in a heelish manner.
Shit gimmick though, the Genius.
Oh, definitely. But he did his best with it, and he sort of made something out of it, which was entertaining. So.
He starts the match off reciting a poem.
A really bad one.
Yeah, so bad. So bad. You can tell like he's not even 100% into this poem. He himself doesn't think it's great.
Yeah. What was it with wrestlers in 1990? There was two things which really kind of weirded me out looking with 21st century eyes. The first one is this move that they go to over and over again, which is a punch to the gut for like a full flip.
Oh yeah, they punched him in the gut, and then the guy taking it flips over onto his back.
Yeah, and they did it in 3 matches.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that's gone. That's such a weird, shitty Young Bucks thing to do.
Is it that the punch has so much force behind it that it just sends the guy into the air?
Oh, I mean, I guess
Is that the thought?
I guess a lot of wrestlers have a lot of force in their punches then, because this was a very, very common move amongst the locker room of WWF 1990.
That feels very Popeye.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
It doesn't feel very real. I mean, you never saw Mike Tyson do a flip after taking a gut punch.
Brutus got royally screwed by the man here. Like, this is a different universe. Hebner wakes up just in time to like call the disqualification, and then 3 refs run down to stop Perfect from beating up Brutus. Like, where were these 3 refs? And then there was a double disqualification.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it was a
like,
double
that's not fair, is it?
disqualification.
I guess because Brutus, the barber, Beefcake, barbered.
It's in the name, it was going to happen.
Exactly. Why are they giving this man such a hard time?
He did try to cut the guy's hair mid-match as well.
He did it pretty brutally as well.
It was very weird.
It's a bad buzz cut.
Yeah, I just looked up the WrestleMania card. So this is the start of Mr. Perfect, Brutus Beefcake feud, and they're going to have a match at Mania. Mr. Perfect gets into it with Hogan, is it, in the Rumble, and that's the climax of their current feud.
I really enjoyed the match. It was quite aggressive, but I mean, the first time they went for a pinfall, I was like, right, well, he's forgot. Then they did it again and again, and I thought, oh, maybe this is a work. Maybe like they're trying to. I thought maybe this is actually pretty clever. They're trying to make the crowd remember that this is a submission match.
I thought the same thing.
13 pinfalls later, bro. They have quite clearly forgotten. Because they were going like in pure heat moments, like near win moments going for the pinfall. You could see Ronnie Garvin like slapping himself inside his head. Just over, and it really kind of annoyed me after a while.
I think even the referee was getting pissed off because he just kept like tapping the guy on the shoulder, like, just come on, get up.
Yeah, there was a lot of messy spots here, but there was a sense of dislike genuinely emanating between the two, which I thought really added to the effectiveness.
Oh yeah, they went hard. I don't know if they were just selling really well, they're good sellers, or whether there was actually some real distaste there.
It felt a little bit like there was a little bit of distaste there for each other.
Was the idea of a submission match quite new in 1990, or were these two just not clued in with what was going on?
I think it was probably semi-regular on the independent. Well, I say independent, but it was all territories back then. The non-New York market,
right?
I would say, and I think at this point Garvin and Valentine have been in WWF for a good couple of years. So I think honestly they just keep forgetting because they're so used to working the formulaic house shows.
Fair enough. Right, so every time that we watch a 90s show, usually half the card I've heard of but not seen matches in, or I haven't seen much of them. So I'd never heard of Ronnie Garvin. And just like the other WCW stuff we've watched, I kind of pick a guy every show and I go down a bit of a wormhole looking into this guy. So I got a few fun facts about Ronnie Garvin for you.
I love a good fun fact.
So he is the stepfather of Jimmy Garvin, who's a member of the Freebirds, but there's only a 7-year age difference.
Wrestling.
Yeah, that's some redneck right there. And then, so his career didn't last much longer than 1990, unfortunately, in WWF. And then he went on to the independents, and he kind of did a few bits that I could see on his Wikipedia, at least, all the way up until 2000s. And then his very last match on just some shitty local show was in a battle royale, and who but Viscera eliminated him from that battle royale. And that was his retirement match.
Do you think Viscera said, "Oh, thank you for the opportunity, pal. Like this, this is such a fucking legacy that you're leaving behind. I'm so honored to be throwing you over the top rope tonight."
I don't think so. I think Viscera is a bigger star than this guy, unfortunately. But
that's really sad, actually.
Yeah, it's a shame because I watched this match. I was like, "Oh, this guy must have done some great things." Probably in WCW. That's why I've never heard of him. And not really. His career didn't...
Did he ever go to another promotion after WWF, like another big one?
No big ones. He jumped around a lot of territories for the last couple of years while that was still a thing, and then that's it.
That's unfortunate. I really enjoyed his work in this match, and I really like Valentine as well. Obviously, Valentine's got a long and storied career. I thought Ronnie Garvin would have at least done like a lot of stuff on an AWA show or something. That's sad. I also learned from you that he's not Dino Bravo, who was assassinated.
Yeah, no, it's not that guy.
Those two look similar.
So Giovanni said that this pretty much came out of nowhere, this new feud that was going to go into Mania. So I think maybe Perfect's just taking off guard and working with some shitty material.
Yeah, it feels like he might have been given a disservice, definitely. Plus, I mean, do people really want to work with Beefcake?
I've not seen much of Beefcake stuff, to be honest.
He's not great, man. He's spent his entire career following Hogan around. He's been involved in some dreadful gimmicks. He was like a Black Scorpion or something. Like he wore a mask and faced Hogan at Starrcade '94. He's always just kind of hung around,
right? And
he always gets put into at least the mid card, just like the Nasty Boys in TNA.
Yeah, here's the thing. I always thought he was one half of the Nasty Boys. But I know now I'm completely wrong about that.
Well, I guess Hogan has a facial type for his friends.
And then Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yeah.
I basically thought all three of those guys was just one guy that was best friends with Hogan. But no, there's three different people. Oh well. So we're backstage again with Jim Duggan, and it's a Jim Duggan interview. There's nothing to say.
He fucks up saying approach 3 times. And I hope he never hears this because he'd beat the shit out of me, but he literally says, "I'll see you eye to eye," while being cross-eyed. It's not the right choice of words, really, for good old Jim. Anyway, Big Boss Man versus Jim Duggan.
Right, and if the crowd wasn't already dead enough, let's just throw this piece of shit at him. The only redeeming factor out of this entire thing is Boss Man actually does an enziguri. I didn't even know he had it in
Man,
him.
you really didn't like this show, did you?
I actually did, but for the wrong reasons. I was laughing at it, not with it.
Yeah, same. You got to give it to Bossman for wrestling pretty much his entire career in a shirt and trousers.
Oh, yeah, but did you see how much he sweat in this match?
Yeah, so bad.
I'm not blaming him. Like you said, he's got a lot of heavy clothing on there.
Also, I don't want to nitpick the storylines, man, but would you expect a guy hailing from the Department of Corrections as having a manager called Slick?
Bossman has always confused me as why this has been a successful gimmick.
Definitely, I agree with you. Like, in every single iteration, right up to the Ministry days, I don't really get it.
And I think a lot of people say it wasn't successful, and maybe not ever as his push, but he lasted, the longevity of the character. Years.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the few guys that worked in early 90s and then somehow got his way into an attitude gimmick. Also, I assume Jim Duggan's music was taken away due to copyright on the network. There was no music when it came out.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
I don't know for sure, but I actually, if it wasn't, the idea of having a patriot carrying an American flag coming out purely to the crowd reaction, that's pretty cool. It's a good idea.
Yeah, it felt special when he walked out with no music, because he screamed, because you could hear him doing his hey-oh. Mm-hmm. So it did seem pretty cool. Do you reckon it's just that he has the national anthem as
but why would they edit that out? That's a really weird thing to edit out.
No, like maybe they were using a copy of like some army or marching band or something, and now they don't have the rights to it.
Like that does happen on the network quite a lot, actually. Especially if you go into ECW. If you ever watch a Sandman match, it's not Enter the Sandman. They can't be bothered to pay for Metallica.
Right. Well, I mean, why would they for something that...
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I'm glad to realise have lasted 30 years. Like everybody picking on the big man in the Rumble so that they can get him out.
Yeah.
That's been done every year, apparently, since 1990.
Keeping it fresh.
Yeah, this is preposterous 1990 wrestling posing action, buy your action figures at your local convenience store. It's most normal, you know. I hope that feud went somewhere, did it?
Not that I know of.
Right.
Jim Duggan versus Dino Bravo at WrestleMania.
Okay.
Big Boss Man versus Akeem, so no.
You need to watch that Dino Bravo Dark Side of Wrestling documentary. That's really, really cool. Well, interesting. About Dino Bravo's mob ties and how his murder was never proven. It never understood who killed him, or if he, like, there's ideas of him killing himself. But the door was unlocked, and apparently he had been getting in deep heat with mob, and he was killed. I'm not sure while on contract, but maybe just shortly after. He's had a very interesting life himself.
So even while wrestling, he was involved with the mob?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. A guy in the locker room with him at the time kept telling him that he was getting too deep into this stuff. And he just obviously didn't listen. But that's a really hushed up story.
Yeah.
Snooker has an aneurysm, pretty much.
A lot of them do. Did you feel just like, after a little while, it was just like, this is a lot of just big men screaming at me and not really saying anything?
Yeah, I mean, this was like a pain commentary track over your day. This really hurt my head, honestly. It went so long. It was like 10 minutes. What is the Akeem gimmick, man? So weird. He's like continually moving.
I don't know.
Why does he move so much? Well, he looked happy to be there, at least.
And the very last one is Hulk Hogan, of course. Could he be any more tanned and oiled up?
Oh my god, he looked amazing.
So oiled up, though. Like, you could literally see your reflection in his abs.
It was so painfully clear the difference between Hogan and the entire rest of the roster. Like, his promo was exciting. It made sense.
The only one that actually made sense.
The only one that made sense. It proved so easily that Hogan was the best in the game.
And then the closing line. You ready for this?
Go on.
What are you going to do when Hulkamania rumbles all over you?
Oh, nice.
Sexy.
Oh, do you reckon he said that in his sex tape?
Yeah, definitely did.
I'm rumbling, brother.
That's where my mind went anyway.
Oh, dirty.
Right. So the 2 feet rule isn't a thing yet, is it?
Ted DiBiase started off with Coco Beware, and Coco Beware painted his head half red, half white. And I'm not even just saying this for a joke on the podcast. I genuinely thought for a second that the white bit was bird shit from his bird. Like, just poor choice of paint, I think.
Fantastic.
Really.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So DiBiase goes on to last the longest in this match, which at this point was a record. And they were really putting him over.
Apparently they went on to break this pretty much every year until they finally settled on the guy that they actually wanted it.
Because before that we get Shawn Michaels run out, and then he gets the he gets that spot where he lost.
He got squashed.
He gets the classic Rumble spot where you last less than a second. You're in, you're out straight away.
He got jobbed. These are the good old days where Shawn Michaels got jobbed by Warrior and said, "Yeah, thank you, sir." Those are good old days before fucking Shawn Michaels got so egotistical that he couldn't have a match with Vader.
But Marty Jannetty got like 30 minutes in this match.
He also got a massive pop.
Yeah, and Shawn Michaels was, bam, you get that second.
I assume Shawn Michaels had pissed somebody off backstage again.
Just that was surprising for me that it wasn't the other way around. Shawn Michaels was in there earlier on, lasted longer, and Jannetty. Let's get to this ending, because...
Right. So,
Mr. Perfect comes out.
Warrior gets eliminated really awkwardly.
Yeah.
Comes back and beats up some randomers, and then runs out again.
Just full speed runs.
Really awkwardly. What? That was a really fucking weird way to push Warrior.
Yeah, and he doesn't even go for Hogan. I think it's Barbarian and Hercules he attacks.
He looked like an absolute loser here.
Yeah.
He got beaten fair and square by 2 mid-card guys, came back because he was upset about it, beat them up, then left again because he had forgotten what he was doing.
To your point, because the commentary made very much a point about this. What you were saying about who is the heel, who is the face. So the 2 guys are trying to eliminate Hogan, and Warrior actually makes the save and stops Hogan being eliminated. But then the reverse happens, and then Hogan comes in from behind and helps them eliminate Warrior. So Hogan is almost playing the heel here.
Yeah, and once again, Jesse Ventura calls it out. He said Hogan's being a schmuck or whatever.
And then Schiavone has to try and keep the Hulkamania alive.
I'm not sure whether this was Hogan politicking, but it made absolutely no sense, and this was bad booking. Like, considering Ultimate Warrior, according to Prichard, had been booked in for WrestleMania 6 since the previous Survivor Series, this was an awful way of building the 2 up to face against each other. And I'm sitting listening to podcasts and stuff saying, people are telling me this was fantastic, this was amazing. This was atrocious. This was a terrible way to treat Warrior. I'm actually amazed that they had such a good blow-off, such a good match, and so many people were into it, considering that this was the first beginning seed of dissension between the 2.
In the moment, it's a big thing. But looking back at it, they had a 5-minute moment, if that. And then Hogan's...
Most of the time that they were supposedly having a moment, they were getting beaten up by a mid-card guy.
I think it was that they were working together, because they're both meant to be faces, right? So they were working together, and then Hogan backstabbed him. That's the catalyst of this thing.
It is quite interesting, though, because I can't really think of a match from this era in which a face-to-face. This is... so maybe they were just a little bit confused as to how to, pull the trigger on this.
Like, share, and subscribe to keep it botched up, brother.